We have the statistics and we know that the system is not really working that well, especially over the last couple of years. It's become more and more obvious that the system is not working well. So why would we want to replicate that? Today we're going to talk about why we shouldn't teach like we were taught in public school. Now, this was a topic that I was asked about at the Generations webcast, and I had more to add. I just didn't have enough time to really dive as deep as I wanted to into this topic. So that is what we're going to do today on my own channel. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the broken system and why we shouldn't be taking that home. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Mandy, and on my channel I talk about homeschooling and curriculum and book reviews and a lot of educational type topics. If this stuff interests you, make sure you hit the like and the subscribe button so you can get all the updates every time I post a new video. So if you spend a little bit of time researching the public school system, you will find that the public school system model that we have today was birthed by a man named John Dewey, and he was heavily influenced by Karl Marx, and his number one influence was Charles Darwin. And we have the system we have today thanks to that man. Now, when I was in college and when I got my degree, I was basically taught to worship at the altar of John Dewey. We didn't hear about any of his shortcomings or about any of his influences for obvious reasons. But the model of the school system that we have today is due to his influences and his writings and things like that. And that's the system we have today. Funny enough, John Dewey is an apostate. He was raised by very Christian parents. And in college, he was influenced by those two influencers, and unfortunately, he went that way. Kevin Swanson has some great writings on John Dewey and the school system in his book Upgrade, in his book Worldviews in Conflict, and Apostate. I talk about those books a lot on my channel. Go grab those books if you want to learn more about John Dewey and even his Christian upbringing. I thought that was very interesting when I was reading it. So there's this movement that I'm a part of, and it's really picking up steam the last couple of years. And it's basically this movement of a bunch of former teachers who are pulling their kids out of the school system and homeschooling them. And I think it really says something when a teacher pulls their kids out of the system, and when there's a mass exodus of teachers and them pulling all of their kids out of the school system to homeschool them. That says a lot. And one of the main reasons I pulled my kids out of the system was because I knew too much about the system, and I did not like it. I did not like what I was seeing. I did not like the trend of the way it was going, and this was back in like the 2010s, not like, post 2020. So this is a huge movement that's growing, and Christians especially were able to see the writing on the wall a long time ago. And that's really where I started, was when I saw the writing on the wall of how godless the school system was becoming and the way that Christian teachers were being treated in the school system. And I did not like it. So I was one of the ones back then that saw the writing on the wall and pulled my kids out. Now, I wanted to give them an exclusively Christian education and upbringing, and that was, probably our biggest influence for wanting to do that. But there were other factors as well, and things that if you would tell me, back then that was happening today, I would have laughed and said there's absolutely no way. But a lot has changed. I mean, I think we all know a lot has changed over the last couple of years. And if you spend 5 minutes on Instagram, you will find teachers who are bragging about their extreme things that they do in the classroom and they can totally get away with. So one of the things that I always get accused of on the internet is indoctrinating my children. And I think it's such a funny argument, because here is the thing, guys. Someone is going to influence your children. It's going to be you, it's going to be teachers, it's going to be coaches, it's going to be somebody. Somebody is going to influence your child. There is no neutrality with upbringing kids. There is absolutely no neutrality. You can't even find a curriculum book or any book in general that is neutral. Somebody always leans some way. Now, really in our world, there's two ways to lean. You have either the Christian worldview or you have everything else. And that everything else is where the school system is going to obviously lie. So either you are going to influence them as a Christian parent in that way, or they're going to go the secular humanist route. And we really have to detox from this mindset that we have to take the public school model of what education is and bring it into our own homes. It's so unnecessary. Now, if that works for you and that's what you want to do, that's awesome. I mean, I kind of did a little mini version of that for a while because that's what I was comfortable with as an education major and as somebody who taught kids for a long time. Teachers who pull their kids out of the public school system, they just do what they know and what they're comfortable with, and that's exactly what I did. I bought desks and I made like a little mini classroom in my kitchen. And I did not have the size house to do that. I really shouldn't have done that. But, you know, for the first couple of years, it worked for me and I was comfortable with it and it was like a transition time, but it's not something that we really have to replicate. And it's really, really unnecessary to do that because learning happens in all kinds of different spaces. And it's almost like we get in this mindset, especially when we were public schooled ourselves, that learning can't happen unless you're sitting at a desk and you have a textbook in front of you. And I'm speaking to Christian homeschooling parents here. I'm not speaking to secular homeschooling parents here, so just keep that in mind. First thing I really detoxed from was these secular textbooks. So anything not written from a Christian worldview went out the door. It did not come into my house. I wanted to give my kids a Christian education. Now, that does not mean that we don't learn about Charles Darwin, because I get accused of that all the time and it's absolutely absurd. We teach about secular people. Okay, we teach about those people. I promise you, my kids probably know more about Charles Darwin than any of their same aged peers who are public schooled. Guarantee you. So yes, secular textbooks have no place in my homeschool, and that is my personal choice. That is my husband's personal choice. We just don't teach from anything but a biblical perspective. And I would also say, you know, just like I said in the conference, you really have to hand over this whole process to the Lord. And that goes without saying. And I would also say with home-centered education and with God-centered curriculum, we really want to embrace this time together, because at the end of the day, and I know so many of you know this who have kids who are growing up real fast like me, that this time is so precious and it goes by so fast. So what I really want to say is embrace this time together and enjoy every single day, because it goes by so much faster than you realize, and in a blink, years have gone by and you are like me and you're staring at the end of their educational career with you. And you are looking at the transition period of them going into adulthood. Homeschooling strengthens our families, where, you know, public school, I don't feel like does that. I was a kid who was public schooled. I went through the system. I wanted to become a teacher because I loved education so much. And when I saw from the outside and from the inside what was happening to education, I knew I wanted something different for my kids, and I'm so glad I did this. Yes, it's a lot of effort, and yes, it's a lot of work, but it was one of the best decisions that my husband and I made, and I'm just really thankful that the Lord led us here and put great people in our lives who are also homeschoolers that I could reach out to and that could mentor me and, you know, help me along with my journey. And I'm so glad that I get to do this with all of you, and that I get to talk about this and help you guys as well, because not everybody has somebody in their life who is a homeschooler and that they can ask advice to. So hopefully that's what these videos do for you, because I didn't really have a whole lot of people in the beginning. So I know it can be scary, especially when you see teachers and people in education pulling their kids out of school. You're like, what is going on? This is not normal. But school teachers are leaving the school system in droves to homeschool their kids, and you would be surprised how many of them are actually doing it because they see what's going on, and it can get scary at times. So I really wanted to expand on this topic a little bit more because I had such a small allotted time to be able to talk about some of these topics, but I really hope that it encourages you today. It's kind of just an off the cuff, chatty video. I really just want to reiterate, we are homeschooling and education can happen anywhere. I have done homeschool in some of the craziest places. I have homeschooled during a hurricane. I have homeschooled when we were on the run from a hurricane, actually, when we were down at my parents' house in Florida. One of the first things I packed up was the homeschool books because if things flooded, I didn't want their school books getting ruined. So I packed up all of their school books, put them in the trunk of my car, and then left the state as quickly as I could because it was just getting crazy here up north. And I, flew down south where my parents were, and I had to go stay with them. My husband was an emergency responder, so he couldn't go with us. I don't miss those days. But, I homeschooled in Florida, while we were on the run from a hurricane, just so my kids still got credit for school because we had to leave and evacuate for weeks. We couldn't come back. And I have homeschooled in hotel rooms. I have homeschooled in the car. I have homeschooled in the doctor's office. I have homeschooled so many different places. Education doesn't just happen at a desk in a classroom. Education is everywhere. We learn everywhere. And I'm not saying that there is no place for formal education. I'm just saying we have to get out of the mindset that homeschooling has to be like this little boxed thing that we were used to in public school. Homeschooling can happen in so many different areas, but I want you to remember that we are homeschooling, like home-school. Everything happens centered around our home and our family and being together. And that's why homeschooling really brings your family together as a unit. And I have seen so much growth in my family since we started homeschooling, and I'm so glad that we did it. All right, there's my video for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. How long have you been homeschooling? Let me know that down below in the comments. How long have you been homeschooling, or are you thinking about homeschooling? Let me know down below. I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you have a great rest of your day and happy homeschooling.